So you've probably heard a lot of countries like China and Iran have been blocking their users from getting on sites like Facebook and YouTube because dissidents have been using those sites to network with each other or to post content that is critical of those countries' governments. And so this whole industry has sprung up around making software for people in those countries to use to get around their internet blockers. And that's actually what I do for a living. So if you've heard, thank you. Slides, 15 seconds. So if you've heard in the press, the usual narrative about how this software gets written is that some scrappy young engineer in the West comes up with some brilliant idea for getting through a country's national firewall, and they ship out this software, and the evil, here represented by evil, government censors try and crack down on the software. Whoa. 3 feet. But the engineer is too smart for them. Every part of that narrative is wrong. The software is actually much simpler than that to write, and the governments don't crack down on it as much as you would think. The main obstacles to making it work are more economic and political. So basically, the way all circumvention software works is the same. You're blocked from connecting directly to some site, so you connect instead through some third-party site or machine outside the country, and that fetches the content for you and sends it back. And this can be done in one of two ways. You can have software that's installed on the user's computer so that once you install it, all of your requests go through some machine outside the country. You type in youtube.com or whatever. Or the user can manually go to a third-party site called a proxy site. This is the kind of sites that I make, where there will be a form on that site where it says type in the page you want to go to, and you type in youtube.com or whatever, and it fetches it for you and sends it back to you. And all the proxy sites we make have a form on them that says this site might get blocked tomorrow, so enter your email address here and sign up to receive the new ones that we send out to you. So about 3 million people so far have signed up either through email or through Facebook groups and events to get the new proxy sites that we're mailing and sending out. Now, strangely, when people hear about this for the first time, they're sort of impressed and underwhelmed at the same time. Because it's like, the scope of the thing is huge, but it's pretty simple to describe how it works. And it's kind of, just on hearing that description, it would seem to raise certain obvious questions, like, why don't the government censors just go ahead and join the email list where you send out the new sites? And some countries have, in fact, done that, and we do things like we send out different sites to different sections of the list, but they're not trying as hard as they could. Or why don't they just go ahead and, in the case of software, you can install the software and then see where it connects to outside the country, and then just make a list of those points, represented herein by the first thing that comes up on Google Images for list. You make a list of those places it connects to and block it. Well, it turns out most countries aren't trying that hard. China, for example, doesn't block any proxy sites. All the sites we send out are not blocked in China. The kind of thing China does is that they have an army of tens of thousands of cyber police, and a large part of their job is just to monitor online discussions and flood them with pro-government postings. They're focusing much more on sort of directly propagandizing their own people and controlling the opinions of the Chinese people. Whereas, by contrast, in Iran, for example, the government knows that they've lost control over the opinion of the young net-using generation, so they don't focus so much on propaganda. They do make more of an effort to block the new proxy sites that we send out. So we see some of them blocked after a few days, but we're still mostly able to stay ahead of them. So the main obstacle to making this software work is not the government's blocking it, it's actually the cost of running the service. If you have all that traffic going from YouTube through your machine back to the end user, that costs money. And it's not an unsolvable problem, but you do have to solve it. So Tor, for example, is a project that relies on lots of individual donations of money and hardware. UltraSurf is a similar project that's funded by one big benefactor who owns a large network of machines that are used just for proxying traffic. VPNs are companies that usually charge for using their service, or you can, the proxy sites that we make, they're free, but they have ads on them, which is how we pay for running them. So guess what that means? If you like to screw around at work or at school and get on Facebook or YouTube using a proxy site, then you are helping to subsidize free speech and human rights for the oppressed users in these censored countries. And on their behalf, I say thank you. This is for you. This is for you. So guess what? If you always wanted to be an astronaut, it is kind of a long shot. But if you were ever interested in working on the kinds of problems that come up in anti-censorship software, it actually doesn't take that much to get up to speed on it. I've focused on about 3 of the key points here. There are about 10 or 12 more points like that you have to get, but they're pretty straightforward, and then you're off and running. And there are people who brainstorm about this kind of thing as a hobby. A couple of people like me end up doing it for a living. I have to say, I love the puzzle-solving aspect of it. I love hearing from people all over the world who use this stuff. I love this job. Thank you.